We're back. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a while. We've been lacking. We've been busy. This is what, 3 weeks now since we've last done an episode. Hopefully more normal now. We did change the day to Wednesday for the foreseeable future, so there's that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is it for now. We got a fun episode today. I think we're gonna take a break from all the war stuff that's going on. If it happens to come up in conversation, like there's nothing really crazy that's going on now. It's just kind of like the back and forth of, oh, we're letting them propose a negotiation, or like a deal, right? Blah blah blah, whatever. So I think something that people are kind of getting more interested in now, and maybe they were when the Make America Healthy Again movement was really blowing up in 2024, was the United States experimenting on its own people and the effects that that's had, or the reasoning that they even did that in the first place, and all the different... No. No, and I'm sure it won't be the last either. I mean, how many examples are there? Yeah, go for it. Yep. Mm. That's honestly something cool to look into, something to think about. Captain America? Yeah, like it wasn't just yeah. Yeah. Cuz it's like super steroids. Yeah. So I think some of the things in events tests that we're going to talk about kind of stem from these newer age, I guess some people would call them conspiracies, right? That there's like, birth control remnants in our drinking water supply. There's chemtrails in the sky. Uh, the government is using. They can't hear you. Oh, nope, that's my fault. It's my fault.
Ah, man.
Now you're good. Sorry.
All
That's
right.
all. That's my bad. Sincerely. He
It's
didn't say
fine.
anything important. No, I'm kidding.
No, I didn't say anything important.
Um,
Oh,
but he was talking about the boys and how it would be
thanks.
cool to
Thanks.
look into if there's a possibility of, you know, governments trying to create like a super soldier of some kind, or like a
Like a
hero.
like a Captain America,
Yeah, I think it'd be
essentially.
interesting to figure that out. I'm sure somebody's tried. Um,
It's got to be Russia. I mean, honestly, just if you're Russian born, you're already
dude, have you seen what's his name? Andrei Smyev?
no.
Dude, all right.
Pull 'em up. Pull 'em up.
uh,
Holy shit. He's got to be like completely roided out.
no, he is. He is. He can barely breathe when he walks, and he's like, I don't know how old he is. He's like 25.
I mean, that's like
That might
Brian
be
Shaw and what's the other
Eddie Hall.
one? Eddie Hall. Yeah.
Like this is insane how much he's, but like a Russian guy, you know.
Right. I
Like
mean,
look at
for all we
this.
know, that could just be natural. He could just be completely
I think
natural.
he I think he has like 26-inch arms.
Dude, that's almost my waist size.
Yeah. Some of these are doctored, but he he benched 441 for 25 reps.
Here's the thing, right? If I don't know if this is bad that I say this, but I bet you if you put a 22 in his pec,
He's
like he'd be
gone.
completely fine. No,
Yeah,
he'd be
you
completely
don't, you
fine.
don't. So you think there's enough muscle
Muscle
mass to
density?
stop it? Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, for sure. That's like Kevlar.
I think he weighs like he's like 330. I think is what he weighs. He's lean. Yeah, he won't make it another 10 years. There's no way.
No,
He
that's
doesn't
like
eat. He doesn't eat
shoot.
healthy either. He doesn't eat anything healthy.
What's this? There's this one kid all over like Instagram and TikTok who's like our age who just he eats like he'll eat like 20 eggs. Oh man, Julian? Is that his
Julian
name? No.
Decina?
Yeah.
No, he
He's big.
can't eat. I don't think he got
He's
diagnosed
got
with
an issue. Yeah.
Epstein's bar. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
he was big.
yeah, he's 270 lean or
No
260
neck,
lean for a while.
no neck at all.
No.
All right, but anyway, um, back to on track, back to topic. So today, we were going to talk about some biological weapons that the government, with the help of some scientists, tested on U.S. citizens back in like the what is it, 50s,
50s and 60s. Yeah.
50s and 60s. Yeah. You want to start with the itch? What is it? Big itch? No, what is it called?
Yeah. Operation Big Itch.
Operation Big Itch. Yeah, I think we should start with this one, and then we can get into the bigger one after. So you sent me this document today, and I read through it, and
It's pretty wild.
it's very wild. Yeah. So I mean I can summarize it, and then we can get
Yeah.
into the details. But
Summarize it.
yeah, so basically, um, they were conducting studies. I would say like proximity studies where they would drop these weapons full of, or these like canisters full of fleas, and then they would scatter some was it guinea pigs? That's where
Yeah.
like the term guinea pig came from. Guinea pigs around the area, and they would see they had some like caged up, and then I believe some free roam, right? And they were testing whether those guinea pigs got uh, not infected, but I guess like they got fleas essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was.
And the purpose of the study was testing for a biological weapon. But I don't know. I mean, we can get into the details, but there's something about this that I found interesting.
Guinea pigs.
Yeah, so there's something about this that I found interesting, and we can talk more about this once we get into the details. But there was so much of this document that was about defending the fact that these fleas wouldn't spread outside of their test area.
Yeah, I was saying like that
And
they died off
I just don't
eventually.
necessarily, yeah, I just don't necessarily buy that. And the fact that I would say a good chunk, like maybe like almost half of this document was more about defending the fact that these fleas wouldn't get out of their testing area. And I got some thoughts on that, but let's get into the details here. And,
So
and we
one
talk
thing
more on
that I read that was pretty crazy was that like when the pilots would try to when they went to drop the canisters, I think it was like a manual drop that they would get covered in fleas and they would like
Yeah,
start biting them.
yeah. The pilots got infected. So one of the crazy things about that is I forgot where it was, but somewhere in this document they mentioned that um, before any humans that were working on, so they had some like groups on the ground that were sitting there with like shotguns to defend against birds, so the birds wouldn't get fleas and then take them somewhere else. And they would say that like any human or vehicle that was part of the testing would get disinfected, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, but what about the people on the planes, right?
Maybe
That
when they
that was never
landed,
mentioned.
I don't
I
know.
guess so. Maybe when they landed, but we're talking about like I think they said they bought or they got roughly 1 million fleas. Like, how do you account for all of that?
where do you
First
get a
off,
million fleas
yeah,
from?
where you get a million fleas from? The flea market?
Yeah.
Sorry, bad joke, bad joke. Um, but this is crazy to me that and there's in here. Can you find the part where they mention that some of the fleas were found in like a dumpster in Salt Lake City?
I could do. Hmm.
Yeah, there we go. Uh, it's also of note that this species of flea had been captured in a garbage dumps at Salt Lake City, Ogden, and Provo, Utah. So 90-mile radius, by the way, and their testing radius was not that big.
No. So
So
that
they
they're
spent,
making it seem like these things aren't very resilient and they'll die off, but that's obviously not the case.
and I think the crucial part of this is they finished this document by saying that it's basically a safe test, and that there's relatively no risk of harm to any public because they were doing this in the salt flats of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So relatively low animal population, almost zero, if not zero, human population. Um, but still, they found some of these fleas 90 miles away, and then they were saying that the fleas, uh, they die at night in the cold, and then that
Yeah.
they can only travel like what was it, like 5 inches per hop,
That seems far
and
for
then
a
they would.
flea relative to
It
their
does seem far,
size.
yeah. And then they would lose energy. They didn't have enough energy to travel. They had no direction. They would just like randomly go. Um, but long story short is, can you pull up one of the maps of where they put the guinea pigs in like groups of 5, and there was a total of 25.
It's like one of those circular plots, right?
Yeah. Uh, there's one with like a circles around it, but yeah, I think it's one of these. But basically, the guinea pigs had fleas.
So these are all the guinea pigs, right?
Yeah, and like Luke, tell me,
Yeah.
why would they be testing something like this?
So it's it's like to test on people, you know? It's like a precursor to like animal testing in medicine is always a precursor to testing on humans because you don't really care about the animals, whatever happens to them. Like imagine these I don't know, these guinea pigs got completely infested with fleas and they all died. It wouldn't be like, "Oh, like well, we lost some guinea pigs." Like if they did this on humans, did this in a city and there was like I don't know if people can die from fleas, but if a flea problem got so bad in some city that they tested this on, it'd be like, how did that happen? It's like, why are you doing this? And with some of the other
And
tests that we'll talk about, the reasoning is always that they're testing because they think it's a possibility that some other country could do this to us, or that we could do this to another country, something like that.
and like the crazy part of this was, where was I going? Hold on, lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, okay. So part of the defense of these fleas not getting out was literally a man standing there with a shotgun, and then these like, what do they call them? Like pole nests
Pole
that they
nest.
assumed any bird. Yeah, yeah. It was like if you search nest, you should. I think you'll find it.
It's not gonna track every word.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, their thought was that if like an eagle or a falcon comes down to get one of the guinea pigs that's infected with the fleas, that they would fly up to these pole nests, which are
Yeah, here we
maybe
go.
trap
To
pole
ensure against
traps.
the improbable chance that one of the large raptors, that is birds of prey, such as the golden eagle, red-tailed hawk, rough-legged hawk, and great horned owl, should fly over the grid and carry one of the guinea pigs to a surrounding area where fleas might possibly escape. Special controls will be set up to trap and prevent all raptors from coming into the area. A
Yeah,
guard
they
with a
set up these like
shotgun, uh, pole traps.
pole traps. Yeah, that's what they're called. I it just seems like a such like by chance, um like safeguard, you know.
Yeah, like they are worried about these fleas getting out.
But it's like, okay, at night, if they see this bird, they'll shoot it with a shotgun. If not, they hope it goes to a pole trap, will land there, get caught, and knock it out. Like, what are the chances? And I mean, honestly, that's probably why they landed 90 miles away. These fleas can't travel 90 miles.
Yeah.
And the animals that these fleas are attaching to, like fox, deer, whatever, whatever else they said, chances are not going to a garbage drop off, a garbage dump in Salt Lake City, 90 miles away.
You
know
don't
what I mean?
think so?
I'm going to go with no on that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. It doesn't really make any sense.
But it's just absolutely crazy that. Okay, this one's not even the worst. I mean, do you wanna go to the?
Which one do you want to go to next?
You
So I
want to go
think
to
I think that
the ticks?
we are gonna get to the ticks, but I do want to touch on what's called Project 112, which is under, who is it? McNamara, not as president, but he was Secretary of State, or maybe it was Defense. He might have been Yeah, he was Secretary of Defense, and they greatly increased spending to do research into biological weapons. This is like just pre-Vietnam, and they greatly increased the spending, and they ran these wild experiments on people. So they were like spraying chemicals over cities. They had one of the things where they threw light bulbs filled with bacteria into New York subways to estimate how many people would be killed if it were like a nerve agent or something. Right? I do want to look that one up because that one is crazy.
I thought that was part of the tick document that we read. Was it also mentioned in this one?
I'll get it from the tick one then.
Yeah.
Light bulb. Now here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, here we go.
You start with in the summer. Just go ahead. Yeah, you go.
So Fort Detrick Special Operations Division ran vulnerability tests in which operatives walked around Washington D.C. and San Francisco with suitcases holding, I'm gonna mispronounce this, Serratia marcescens A, a bacteria recommended to Fort Detrick by Traub's nominal supervisor. Now this guy Traub is a former Nazi scientist that came over here in 1949 through Operation Paperclip. Initially, after World War II, he was working for the Russians, and then he went back to Germany, used the methods of employment through Operation Paperclip to come to the United States and work for the Department of Defense. Nazi germ czar and Nuremberg defendant Dr. Kurt Blom. Tiny perforations allowed the germs released so that they could trace the flow of the germs through airports and bus terminals. Shortly thereafter, 11 elderly men and women checked into hospitals with never before seen Serratia marcescens infections. One patient died. Decades later, when the germ tests were disclosed, the Army denied responsibility. Of course, and this is a different one. In the summer of 1966, special operations men walked into 3 New York City subway stations and tossed light bulbs filled with Bacillus subtilis, a benign bacteria, onto the tracks. The subway trains pushed the germs through the entire system and theoretically killed over 1 million passengers. Theoretically, right? So, like, if it was something dangerous that was deadly. Like, imagine if it was, like, I'm trying to think. Like the bubonic plague.
Or, like, Ebola or something?
Yeah, right? Granted, this is, like a test. A test for what?
But here's the thing. The thing that kind of blows my mind is whatever this bacteria was, benign bacteria, how did you know for certain that would not have any effect on the people who got infected by it?
They didn't, right?
Like a gamble. This just seems like a gamble of, okay, like chances are, this won't have any effect on people, but also we're infecting over 1 million people. Like this could damage a percentage of that people, but we're gonna do it anyway.
I wanted to get to the one about
And I think the crazy part of this is literally our government. Granted, I mean this was a while ago, but if this is happening in 1950s and 60s, do you think it just like doesn't happen anymore?
mm,
It's crazy. We should introduce Operation Paperclip because I feel like that's like the gateway to all of this.
is there a summary of it in here? I
Yeah,
don't know
it's in here. Yeah. That read number one. Well, you don't have to read the whole thing, but
So this guy Eric Trobe, which was previously mentioned in one of the lower paragraphs, he was introduced to the United States through Operation Paperclip, as it's called. It's called Project in this, but whatever. In order to understand how Trobe came to the United States, it is important to understand Project Paperclip. The program begins with a synoptic account of that project and how its persecution led to Trobe's entry to the United States and his involvement with Plum Island. Now, the whole thing about Plum Island is the island that is, I guess it would be considered in Long Island Sound. It's just northwest of Montauk, off the coast of Long Island. It's a tiny island. There's an army fort there, Fort Terry, as well as it used to be like a bioweapons research lab, and then it eventually became a USDA animal disease research lab. This all ties in because of Lyme disease, right? Lyme disease. Why is it called Lyme disease? Because the first official cases were discovered in Old Lyme, Connecticut, or I guess maybe Lyme, Connecticut. I'm not super familiar with the state, but which is just north. And the Long Island Sound is not that large of a body of water in comparison to how far away these two places are. Plum Island is not far at all from.
flip a map. Flip a map.
Yeah, let's do the map. It's a good idea. I think I had the map before. I didn't.
But
No, I
a
closed it.
little more backstory. So Project Paperclip was a initiative by the U.S. government to recruit German scientists during and after Nazi Germany, and we would offer them citizenship in exchange for their scientific intelligence and research. Right? Did I summarize that okay?
Yeah. So we were basically just harvesting former Nazi scientists, even ones that were guilty of committing insane crimes.
Yeah, so for example, this guy, what was his name? Starts with a T.
Eric Trobe.
Traub. Yeah, so he reported directly to Heinrich Himmler, which was
Yeah.
second in command to Adolf Hitler. Just for example. So yeah, that's Plum Island there.
Yeah, it's 11
then-
miles away. So, I mean, if you consider like down here, if it, like on the beach, it's like 8 miles, right? So that's not far at all.
And then Montauk is just south of that, southeast.
I mean, that's what 14, 15 miles.
Yeah,
What
but
I was
mean, if you
reading in one
factor
of the other documents was that Montauk actually had the first cases of Lyme disease before it was known officially as Lyme, and they called it, what do they call it? Farmer's knee, or what is it?
And then there's like the biological name, which is like BD.
I can't remember. Was it in this one?
But another
Anyway.
thing to note on the map side of things is 14 miles from a bird's eye, but you can get there through shorter trips across the water by following land.
Yeah,
And I
like
think
you go
that's an important.
here. I
or
mean, you could
if
even
go,
go
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
like
go completely around. And I think that's an important point when we start talking about this Lyme disease stuff. But
I think it just goes to show that the United States isn't going to hold back and say any sort of testing is, off limits, right? Like we talk about the testing that the Nazis did, how bad it was at the time. Like, is it really that different from anything that the U.S. has done post World War II? Not really. It's like they say that all the stuff that they're. Oh, I guess one of the things I wanted to read in here was the. I kind of lost it, but it was talking about the. What was it? St. Louis. Let's just. They used to do. I think it was Operation Sea Spray, Operation LAC, where they would spray these. They sprayed bacteria, and the zinc cadmium was the big one where they sprayed it. They called it a livestock test, where they just sprayed it over like 5 different major cities in the U.S., interacting with tens of millions of people. And they said, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
not
and part of this
cancerous."
testing, if you look up search calorie.
This one, right?
All right.
This is
Yeah,
it. This
yeah,
is what
right
I was
here.
looking for.
Yeah. So the point of all this research was, well, and this specific one was, I believe it was some form of pesticide or chemical that they were spraying on. And the point of this paragraph is, if against Russia, if they could reduce the daily average caloric intake from 2,800 to 1,400, so cut it in half, uh, they could basically starve people enough to reduce the population. I think it was like reduce population by 20%, and then, yeah, right here, reduce manual labor performance by 95%. So, like, I mean, it's pretty blatant that the point of these trials was for a biological weapon.
It's
And
pretty insane.
and then the point of the crazy thing of all this is the, especially the Lyme disease tick stuff, was covered up by saying it was cancer research. And that's part of that document there. The fact that you're covering that up with something potentially so, like, I guess, like, hopeful maybe is the word.
Mhm.
But really, no, you're just trying to kill more people. And it's mind-boggling how you're testing on your own people. I'm not saying you should test on other people, but
You should just not test on people, probably. If we're gonna get so mad at the Nazis doing it, right, and say that they're the worst people in history, we probably
we hired
shouldn't.
them.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't, one, hire them, and two, do the same sort of testing protocols as they did. That's probably why we were doing a lot of this stuff, because 1960s or 1950s and 60s, all of these scientists that we took in were still alive. They're kind of just like, yeah, let's do these tests. There's no way to know whether or not that's actually true. Like, we could really try to track down who pushed these tests, but like the U.S. conducted them. This is another one I wanted to talk about, which was, I don't know if it was explicitly mentioned in that other document, but Operation LAC, or Large Area Coverage, was a United States Army Chemical Corps operation which dispersed microscopic zinc cadmium sulfide particles over much of the United States and Canada in order to test dispersal patterns and geographic range of chemical or biological weapons. So this is like they dropped it over just cities, and like over the entire east coast of Britain. It's just like zinc cadmium sulfide. See, and they say that we found no evidence that exposure at these levels could cause people to become sick, but uh,
And
one of the one of
classified
the
as a
one of
human
the
carcinogen.
yeah, one of the bacteria strains that they use is considered a human pathogen, but they're trying to simulate anthrax and stuff like that. It's like, I guess.
It's crazy. And let's go back to the tick stuff too.
Yeah.
We should talk about, so, the spread of it, and then the first cases of Lyme disease were found in, what was it, Connecticut, New York, and what was the third state?
Was there a third state?
There was the third state. It was Connecticut, New York, and one other state. You might be able to search it, but point being is, clearly they did not contain this experiment, if you want to call it.
New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, it clearly it wasn't contained if it made it to the mainland. And one of my questions, which I still don't know the answer to, and maybe this is a dumb question, but did did ticks carry Lyme disease prior to this experiment?
So there's not really any way to figure that out besides looking at when Lyme disease was officially recognized. I think it was in 1981. Oh, never mind. No. Maybe it was this. Maybe it's 60s. It says in the mid 70s, Lyme disease broke out in Connecticut and has since spread through the United States. Uh, what's the guy's name? Because
The Z guy, that was toward the end.
the what?
That's the scientist that wrote that book. Start
No,
with a
it's
Z.
the guy that they named it after.
Oh.
It's not super important, right? But before that, before the 60s and 70s, when like Lyme disease was not recognized before that, it became official during that time period when they discovered them in Lyme, Connecticut, and on Long Island, right? They're like, what are these ticks that are causing these weird symptoms whenever they bite us? And they're like having grave effects on the joints, you know? It's like it's
and this
something that's
guy
new.
and this guy Trope, is that his name?
Yeah.
So they suspected that he was sort of leading this initiative. Again, was reported directly to Himmler, who was second in command to Hitler, and he had he initially turned down the position of leading the research at Plum Island, but his visits to he visited Plum Island, I think, 3 times throughout his, I guess, dealings with the U.S., and they line up with the spread of the tick infestation / Lyme disease outbreak. Um, it's just crazy. So, do you think that the United States knew this was going on, or do you think this was a malicious intent by the Germans to cause an outbreak on the U.S.?
I don't know, because it's like something like Lyme disease isn't. Well, it's not like a complete pandemic, you know. It's kind of like they
No, but
put
I
it.
believe it's incurable.
Yeah, it is incurable, right? So like, you know, there's mitigation treatment against the symptoms, but you get it, and then it's like, I guess it's one of those things that you can't pass it to other people. You transmit it through being bit by the tick, and it's like in the saliva and enters your bloodstream. But I don't think I would believe the narrative that it was done just so that the Germans can get back to the United States or whatever. You know, because a lot of these Germans were literally saved by the United States. You know, they never had to face trial. They came here. They lived lavish lifestyles.
Yeah, and their crimes were covered up.
Yeah. So it's. I don't think. I think it would be stupid for them to come over here after being saved from charges and death by hanging to say, oh yeah, now we're gonna like do this secret backdoor sort of deal where we create a bioweapon and release it upon the American population. It's like, imagine if somebody found out that they did that. It's like they'd probably kill
Also,
all of those scientists.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but while we're on this particular page, it's important to note that the ticks they were using to test on were named the Lone Star tick because they were native to Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's somewhat unexplained. Well, I'll put in quotes unexplained how they landed in Connecticut, but it's just more evidence that they were conducting this testing on Plum
Yeah,
Island.
I guess playing somewhat logical advocate here, that they can travel on animals, right? And carried on birds, and like we're not
Sure.
saying that it's impossible that they could naturally get from Texas all the way to Connecticut or to this island or whatever, right? But there are a bunch of different types of ticks, like the
The deer tick.
deer tick. There was another one that's
We're saying it's highly improbable.
the cayenne tick. That's what it is.
Mm.
Um, it's just weird. And the Lone Star tick is also the tick that carries alpha gal syndrome, which you've probably been hearing about it recently. Is the syndrome that is basically an allergy to any sort of red meat. So, for just a little backstory on that, the alpha gal molecules are present in the bloodstream of all mammals, and it's kind of makes them not all. It doesn't make them all allergic to eating their own meat, but like theoretically, if a cow ate cow meat, it would have an allergic reaction to it. Basically, humans and other apes and some monkeys do not have this molecule, and therefore do not have the ability to create antibodies against it. And so when these alpha gal molecule infected ticks bite into humans, they deposit those molecules within your bloodstream, and then your body learns to create antibodies which are present inside of the red meat. So when your body eats the red meat, now it's like, okay, this is bad, and it boosts your histamine production and causes you to have an allergic reaction. But the thing that I read that's really weird about it is that a lot of the people who are getting alpha gal syndrome are experiencing symptoms 2 to 6 hours after they eat, which typically normal allergic reactions are like almost immediate. Or you start feeling symptoms pretty soon after you eat something you know you're allergic to. And it's just like a lot of people, I think at the start of when this thing was discovered, people didn't know that it was from the tick, because or they didn't know that it was an allergic reaction, because it's like, how can I relate this reaction I'm having to
Something
something I
that
had
happens
4 hours
6 hours.
ago? Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
whatever. It's like, oh, how do I know? And it's like that just begs the question: is this another thing that's like being researched at this
Orchestrated.
place? It's like, I think, to me, the red meat allergy is a lot more of a not strong bioweapon. If it were to be used as one or made as one, like there's a much better case for that. Although there's far less evidence for that than there is Lyme disease, because we got all these things pushing the lab grown meat, the fake meat. Like, stop eating red meat. Our cattle production is way down. It's like, stop eating meat. It's terrible. It's like, what if we could just
I
make
think.
everyone allergic?
I think. Here's the thing that people don't understand about bioweapons too, is like, take some of our strongest weapons that we have right now. Like, take a nuke for example. You go nuke a country, right? That country is wiped out, and they are likely the only ones infected. Like, take Nagasaki, Hiroshima, right? Those places are inhabitable currently still, but that didn't spread to the entire world. You take this bioweapon and you drop it in Russia, you drop it in, China, wherever. It doesn't just go away after you drop it. Like, it's not a temporary thing. If we can have ticks that were native to Texas, and we can have a bioweapon that was released on an island off the coast of Connecticut or New York, and have it travel that far, and have it still be a problem today, 70 years later. Think about what would happen if you scaled that up to be, you know, big enough to wipe out a country. How long would it take to spread to the neighboring country, and then to that neighboring country, and then come all the way back to the US, right?
Well,
Biological weapons are they're relatively uncontrollable
yeah. And I was looking.
unless you had a cure, unless you had some sort of antidote that you could administer to, your entire population of a country. How do you stop that? You know? Luke, your mic's not working.
I pressed the mute button. It's just too convenient. So what I was saying is that the natural range for these ticks is basically half the United States, like north of Texas, up all the way to central Maine. I think somewhere in northern, it might get a little bit too cold, but I know there's ticks in northern Maine because there's a big or there has been a big problem with ticks on the moose population there, and the effect that it's had on the moose population. I think the only thing that really kills these ticks is the cold, and it doesn't get cold enough in the south, so these ticks can continue to breed down there, and then eventually they make their way back up, which is it's kind of weird to me. Like, it thaws out. How do we get so many ticks like as soon as it becomes spring again?
Mm,
You know,
good
maybe
point.
maybe they don't die to the cold. Maybe they just hibernate. I don't really know,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I want
I was always taught if I got a tick on me, I burnt it.
yeah, yep,
You light it on fire because that's like the only way to kill it. Like you can pull limbs off of ticks and they won't
mhm,
die.
yeah, they're pretty resilient. So we're talking about the possibility that this facility released Lyme disease infected ticks, and it's like, well, what is there to actually support that claim? Well, this section here reads: a former employee at Plum Island in the 1950s has personal recollection of a quote Nazi scientist releasing ticks outdoors on Plum Island. Quote, Trobe might have monitored the tests. A source who worked at Plum Island in the 1950s recalls that animal handlers and Nazi scientists, and a scientist released ticks outdoors on the island. Quote, they called him the Nazi scientist. When they came in 1951, they were inoculating these ticks, and a picture he once saw quote, shows the animal handler pointing to the area on Plum Island where they released the ticks. And it talks about Trobe's World War II handiwork consisted of aerial virus sprays developed in incel reams and tested over occupied Russia, and of field work for Heinrich Himmler in Turkey. Indeed, his colleagues conducted bug trials by dropping live beetles from planes. Is that so different? And maybe, like, this could have been an accident, right? Like, maybe they wanted to just keep these things on the island and see what sort of effects they have to the local population. They didn't expect, these things to latch on to deer and
But
just swim across the
yeah, I was
sound.
gonna say they said they would latch on a deer and the deer would swim across the sound to mainland or island to island. How do you not foresee that?
I don't know.
Because it says that they were aware that deer could swim 2 miles or whatever it was.
Yeah, okay. The ticks would have made contact with mice, deer, and more than 140 species of wild birds known to frequent and nest on Plum Island. The birds spread their toxic cargo to resting and nesting perches atop the great elms and oaks of Old Lyme and elsewhere, just like they spread the West Nile virus throughout the U.S. It's just crazy. Oh, here we go. The Lone Star tick, right? The program concludes with the examination of Plum Island's work with the Lone Star tick, native to Texas. The focal point of experimentation on Plum Island in the 1970s, the Lone Star tick like Lyme disease is now spread throughout New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. How did that happen? The lab chief failed to mention that Plum Island also worked on, quote, hard ticks, a crucial distinction. A long overlooked document obtained from the files of an investigation by the office of former Long Island Congressman Thomas Downey. Uh, the adult and nymphal stages of Abeloma americanum and Abeloma cajunense were found to be incapable of harboring and transmitting African swine fever virus. In layman's terms, Plum Island was experimenting with the Lone Star tick and cayenne tick, feeding them on viruses and testing them on pigs during the ground zero year of Lyme disease. They did not transmit African swine fever to pigs, but they might have transmitted Lyme disease, that's the bacteria, BB, to researchers or to the island's vectors. The Lone Star tick, named after the white star on its back, is a hard tick. Along with its cousin, the deer tick, it is a culprit in the spread of Lyme disease. Interestingly, at that time, the Lone Star tick's habitat was confined to Texas. Today, however, it is endemic throughout New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. That's kind of our point, you know.
Yeah. Is this like a prime example of testing gone wrong?
It could be. It's like, but how can you be so stupid to like, even though you're on an island, right? And you think, oh, we're separated from the rest of the world.
Isolated.
Like, you're really expanding your
And,
test environment.
and like if this sort of thing was going on in the 1950s, can you imagine what they're testing on today? Like you and I could be a
Do you
test
even want to
subject
know?
of something. No, but you and I could be a test subject of something that we have no clue about.
Yeah. That's what people say about chemtrails, right?
Yeah.
Or cloud seeding.
Seeding.
Like the crazy storms. Like there's a guy who has a cloud
Weather
seeding
manipulation.
company, and he's like, I'm gonna completely refill this dried up reservoir. I don't remember what state it is, but
What are your thoughts on cloud seeding?
see, like I think when you try to mess with the workings of God, then you're gonna feel the wrath. Or maybe not you, like if you're the one running the company, but like the people will. You try to mess with the weather, right? And we've seen some of like the craziest storms, the flooding in North Carolina recently, the crazy floods that have happened in Texas. There were some earlier this year in Alaska, just crazy flooding. Like you're seeing these crazy storms just completely dumping rain. It's like some of those incidences, people were alleging that cloud seeding was used because there were areas that previously had really bad droughts. And all of a sudden, like, there's a ton of rain. There was use of cloud seeding in Vietnam pretty extensively. Operation Popeye, look it up if you're interested. And I don't think, like, it's unnatural. The way that cloud seeding works is that you're introducing chemicals into the atmosphere to try and bind the water molecules together to make them more dense so they fall out of the sky, basically. And I just think that's wrong. That's unnatural. How does that affect the water supply, the runoff, and how does it affect people on the ground? Like, yeah, an area might have an intense drought. You drop a million gallons of water on them, and all their houses float away. Like, does that really help them? I don't think so. I think we should just try to find more natural and sustainable ways of reviving the drained ecosystems.
Yeah. No, I mean you summed it up pretty good.
And then you got places like California, and it's just like they just use so much water, and they take it all from freaking Lake Mead, and they don't replenish any of it because they're just so liberal in their use, and they don't do anything about it. They don't try to like supplement with desalination plants. They just say, "Oh, you can't use water now." It's like, okay, have you considered trying to solve the problem?
That is their solution. Yeah, I mean, I think the moral of the story with all this is, uh, as much as I hate to say it, like, I'm almost at the point to say that your government doesn't care about you.
Almost.
You know? All right, you're right. Your government doesn't care about you. They experiment on you, without you knowing about it. And I think that subway light bulb experiment was like a prime example of the potential damage that they could do.
Yeah, imagine if someone with nefarious intent just happened to sneak something real into one of those light bulbs. It's like, whoops, it's killed a million people. I think that's insane.
Man, don't trust the government.
It's pretty simple, I'd say. And we're not
And think
advocating
about
for any violence against the government, because that
No,
is
absolutely
not
not.
the
No.
solution.
No, I think that's the opposite of what we're trying to say here, but I don't know. Just think about if if you directed this effort and this research to something more positive and productive, how much you could accomplish.
Seriously, how much
Like
money was spent on
we
all
get
this?
these yeah, we get these declassified documents of these biological weapons. How many documents do you see on testing for positive things?
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I don't know if you'll be able to find it. Um, you can try pulling it up off stream, but I mentioned the what was it? The super soldier stuff earlier in the
Mhm.
pod. I think
Yeah.
I saw something like in like the early 2020s, we spent like 60 million on research and developing a super soldier.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. See if you can find it. We can dig more into this another time, but I don't know how I feel about that. But it goes back to like, I mean, we had the Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency,
Mhm. Yeah.
and we got rid of all this useless spending. And I'm guessing, half of the useless spending went under the radar. But if things like the fleas and the Lyme disease and the shoot, what was it? The other one we looked at. If that was put toward a productive research, like how far could we come?
So far.
Like maybe we wouldn't have energy issues, maybe we wouldn't have health issues, we wouldn't have, you know, not that I think this is necessarily real, but like climate issues. I'll have to send you what I found, but
Yeah, I can't find it. If you could send me that.
yeah.
Because it's like, this is a problem I had looking up anything related to the Lyme disease stuff. Like, I'm not necessarily looking for confirmation bias. I know that there's a lot out there that says, "Oh, it's all a myth. It's all a myth." And like, I've read that stuff. It all says the same thing. Like, "Oh, there's no way that Lyme disease, could have possibly come from, Plum Island." And all of them say it was because, well, because we found a mummy that's 5,300 years old that has Lyme disease in it. It's like, so that means that ticks were infected with Lyme disease back then and infecting people. Okay, you have one case of it. Dude was like maybe sucking the bark off a tree that had the bacteria. Like I just think it's
Yeah,
so
but
weird.
also that
It's like
doesn't explain Texas native ticks ending up in Connecticut, New Jersey, New York in mass amounts.
it's so weird that these ticks were on the like experimented with on that island off the coast of Connecticut, 8 miles away, and the first official cases of Lyme disease were in Old Lyme, Connecticut. Riddle me that and say, "Oh no, it's a myth." Is it? Is it really? Like, why are there ticks with Lyme disease just on the coast of Connecticut? Like, it's just the logical putting two and two together. And we're not,
Deductive reasoning.
yeah, we're not making any claims that that's definitely what happened, but like the evidence is kind of pointing to that. And all the propaganda, disinformation campaigns that are trying to put people off of falling into that belief, because the government wants you to trust them, obviously, and doesn't want you to think that basically every action that they do is not on your behalf but serving the interests of their own and lining their pockets. Although I don't really know how this lines their pockets. It's just like demon worshippers at the top who want people to suffer and die, basically.
You know who Cliff is?
Yes, I love Cliff.
I love Cliff. Yeah. Yeah, he's all about like the evidence in uncertainty. He's like, if the evidence presents this, he's like, we're not saying this is like absolutely true. We're not saying we're certain this is a thing, but the evidence is the evidence. And if everything is pointing to this one thing and you can't really find anything to dispute it,
Hmm.
chances are it's true.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, the only evidence that I've seen that is trying to debunk that Lyme disease came from this island is that Lyme disease has been around for thousands of years. It couldn't have possibly come from this island, but it wasn't necessarily around for thousands of years being carried by ticks. Lone Star
It's
ticks
like salmonella
specifically, which were native to Texas.
or like E. coli. E. coli has existed forever. You know how much more common it is nowadays?
I think, from what I understand, the big reason that we've had the E. coli outbreaks recently is because farmers have been placing their livestock pastures too close to like their greens.
Vegetable pastures.
So
Yeah.
when it rains and that the poop from the livestock pasture runs off down to where their greens are, and they're just not washing them well enough. And for the feces to become sterile, they have to ferment over time. Like, that's why manure can be used to fertilize crops, because it's been fermented in like the E. coli virus, or is it bacteria? I don't really know. Like, it's
I think
not
it's
present
bacteria.
anymore.
Either way, whatever. Yeah.
But like the fresh fecal matter, and then they're picking it immediately, and then giving it a little rinse, throwing it on the shelves.
Okay, but point of all this is just because something existed hundreds, thousands of years ago does not mean it is overwhelmingly present today.
Yeah, I agree. And we're not making the claim that they created anything new, but rather they may have, guided the path of this bacteria into a usable vessel, or vector as they call them, to drive the spread of it. It's just very unfortunate that we kind of like. Granted, I'm far more worried about the alpha gal syndrome ticks than the Lyme disease ones. Granted, Lyme disease would still be terrible, but like not eating
Can you
red
imagine
meat for the
not
rest
being
of your
able to
life.
eat meat? Yeah,
Dude,
that would suck.
like, you gotta be kidding me. So everybody keep a lookout this summer. Like, I don't know, protect yourself.
Check yourself for ticks. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I saw something that ticks were gonna be like super bad this year.
I think, yeah, I mean, I've seen more pop up about these AG ticks than anything else. It's really freaking me out. The good thing about me is I have a lot of leg hair, so the ticks usually get caught up in it, and then I could feel them before they get to the skin. So it's a blessing for me. It's helped me a lot, but
Dude's hairy.
stay
We got an
vigilant
ape
out
over
there.
here. Luke is an ape. All right, well we can wrap up. I think this is a pretty fun episode. We'll get into more of this stuff, more of the. I don't even know if you can call this a conspiracy. Like, at what point do you call a conspiracy like an actual event when you have enough evidence?
I don't know. The
prove it?
conspiracy theories keep getting proved to be true, so
The
everything
frogs are turning gay.
everything you call a conspiracy theory these days is basically just like, yeah, it'll be true eventually.
Just wait 40 years till the documents become declassified.
Yeah.
And then
And I think it's nice to take a break from all the like general I don't know, modern politics.
yeah, for sure.
It's
Agreed.
cool to do some research on something. All right, what do you say?
Yeah, we can wrap up. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, we should be back regularly scheduled. I know. Let's see. I will be gone the 13th of May, so I don't know if you want to do a quick solo, but I will be gone for that. But other than that, I don't have anything planned over these next foreseeable Wednesdays. So
All right, we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll do a solo. Been a while.
Yeah, I know we keep saying this, but we could always plan to pre-record something.
Yeah,
Or
we say that and then we get so
move on to a
busy,
different
and
day.
it's just
Yeah.
hard.
We do have
But
lives outside of the podcast.
yeah, certainly do. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. A little bit of a change up. This is like season 1 Operation Alpha stuff.
Yeah, we'll bring more back. I have
Yeah.
fun with this stuff.
Me too. All right.